Welcome to Rucks, Balls and Oval Balls. That's right, it's the fans' favourite rugby podcast, brought to you by the fans' favourite rugby podcast hosts. Back again this week to talk more rugby nonsense. It's me, Dave, joined as ever by Rory. Rory, you know what to do. Say hello to the listener, why don't you?
Hello, listeners. Hello, David. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, Rory. I'm very well indeed. How are you, more importantly?
Yeah, you're right. That is more important. I'm good. No game for the Lions this weekend, so I trotted out for the Thirds.
Wow. Okay, how was that experience?
Interesting. We went and played Barking,
Okay.
who, for anyone in the southeast, will know Barking Rugby Club. So most esteemed alumni, Jason Leonard, is where he came through.
Fantastic. Illustrious.
So, yeah. Historic, so sort of cusp of East London, Essex. Historically, one of, if not the biggest teams in that sort of area, the East London, Essex region. Interesting story with Barking. They were doing extremely well. They were in Nat 1 and were in the playoffs to go up to the Championship. Someone threw an intercept pass. I forget who they were playing, but whoever it was intercepted the ball, ran the length of the field, scored the try, won the game, went up to the Championship. And then Barking didn't win another game for like 6 years.
Wow. That's
so
a real, like...
the club virtually folded.
It's almost like the butterfly effect of what if...
Yeah. Everything just sort of, the arse fell out of it. So
what
the club
could have
virtually
been?
folded.
What could have been?
Exactly. So we were actually playing Barking's first team in the merit tables. So they're sort of just starting to get back on their feet now, you know. So they got player base. I think they're starting to put together a bit of a youth section where they can, and you know, it's a proper classic old sort of Eastern club. You know, it's a proper rugby club, but ball on a hard times. But it was nice to go back there for the first time, and you know, good bunch of blokes who are playing for them, who I thoroughly enjoyed playing against. They were a good laugh, but the game itself left a little bit desired.
This sounds like a preamble to you telling us that the Thirds got stuffed by the Barking first team. Is that what happened?
We won 22-21.
Ooh, a close encounter.
Very close encounter.
I'm assuming there's not been any movement on my campaign to start getting Rory specific Westcliff games recorded for audio and visual.
Well, Barking did have a VO set up.
Ooh, okay. So I'm listening.
I've seen some photos, but I haven't seen a video, so I will inquire as to whether it's available.
Please do, and then timestamp any moment that you believe is of interest to me or the listener, because I am not opposed to digging those out and sharing the love.
Barking Rugby Club, the appeal is here. Our mob wants your VO link for the Westcliff Threes game.
Oh, I do indeed. What do I have to talk about? Well, Roy, you know, I'm assuming the listener knows, my life is dominated about baby stuff. About to become a dad. It's all-encompassing. No rugby being played at this point in time. But I am considering whether... I turned 35 in 2 days' time, Rory, which makes me feel very old. Do I go for one last hurrah and try and get one season in of proper rugby under my belt? And to see... It'll be my last chance to really probably give it a go. And do I use the motivation of, you know, being a new dad to drive me to go do that, you know, to get fit again, get in good shape, and then hopefully find a good family club that one day may be the home of, you know, the next England propping legend that will be my offspring.
Well, have you been inspired by your time in Man vs. Fat to fully give it a go?
Potentially. So I've put Man vs. Fat on hiatus for a little while, whilst just dealing with, you know, becoming a father and getting ready for all that. I might go back to that as a segue into going into full contact ahead of next season. So
as a pre-season.
Yeah. So if you are a club in the Bath or Bristol area and you want a really, really rusty and unfit ex-prop who's not even sure he'd be able to prop anymore, get in touch at ruxballsoverballs@outlook.com.
Wow, what a pitch.
What a pitch. But yeah, other than that, that's enough for banter, Rory. We've got a lot of rugby to go through, obviously.
Let's get into it.
We've got some stuff around, some stuff in the newspapers, stuff in just general news. I'll say news again. Obviously, we've got Gallagher Prem, round 10, that took place this weekend. That's just been... We'll do our team of the week, and then we'll start turning ahead to the jewel in the crown of Northern Hemisphere rugby. That is the Six Nations, where our attentions will turn once this podcast is published. Best time of year. But let's dig into the news section. Quite a nice segue. I think the first thing we should touch on, we weren't able to talk about it last week on the pod because it wasn't announced towards the end of the week. England have announced their Six Nations squad, and it feels right that we don't need to do a full reaction because that's been done to death everywhere on social media. But interested to get your thoughts, Rory, and maybe the listeners interested too.
Yeah, well, I would throw ahead to next week. We're going to do a Six Nations preview pod, we're not going to bother too much with the Prem Rugby Cup. So
shock.
We'll give our full thoughts on everything Six Nations next week. My initial thoughts were pleased. To be honest, the reality of a 36-man squad is not every player you wish could be in there will be in there. But by and large, I've got no great complaints.
No, and
I didn't see any glaring omissions that weren't explained by injury.
No, and I think the other omissions were all kind of understandable because it's omissions to players that are kind of would have been nice to have, but I can understand why they've not been selected. E.g., George Hendy. I would love to see him there, but I understand why Freddie Stewart's getting selected. I can understand why George Furbank's being selected. So, frustrating? Not really, but it would have been nice to see him there, but I'm happy that Stewart and Furbank are there.
I mean, if I don't have a magic wand, I probably would have put in Joe Carpenter and Nathan Jabulu, but I understand the form of sale has been off. Carpenter in particular has had a lot of injuries, so... Yeah.
And very pleased to see Mr. Greg Fisilau, who you've been waxing lyrical about over recent weeks.
No, he's been in superb form for Chiefs. I think he's obviously in the mould of Ben Earl as a number 8. So he's not, so it's not replacing Willis, but it's a hard job to do that anyway. There are a couple of players around the Prem who might fill in that mould eventually, but there's no one ready to step into Willis's shoes right now in the same way. But Fisilau, I think he fits the England back row in the sense that he could probably play all 3 positions.
Yeah.
He's probably just about big enough to be a reasonable line-out option.
Yeah, Exeter use him, so...
Big engine.
Yeah.
It's a big engine, powerful. I mean, he's put on 3 or 4 kilos for this season. It's really noticeable in the way that he's performing for Exeter. So, put all that together, I think he's well worth his place in that back row. There's always players that people will shout about as being in there. You could have made a very good case for Callum Chick.
On form wise, absolutely.
It's certainly been one of the best, if not the best number 8 in the league this season.
Other than Tom Willis.
There's apart from Tom Willis, of course. Quins fans will always extol the virtues of Alex Donbran. I wouldn't necessarily agree entirely, but he has got some real qualities even in a struggling Quins side. I think there's exciting players coming through like Zach Carr, like Arthur Green at Bath. There are some exciting players who may be more akin to the Willis mould.
Yeah.
But for me, Fisilau is probably the pick of the bunch at the moment, and so well worth his selection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only other question on this, and then we'll move on. How are you feeling in the propping department? Because obviously that's been spoken about a fair bit. There's some relatively low cap new faces due to injuries.
Yeah, look, I mean, as a Gloss fan, I would have liked to have seen Affo get the nod, but I know why he's not being picked, and I think it's pretty. If you watch Gloucester enough, which a lot of people don't, for obvious reasons, Affo's great for the big moments. I don't think he's there for the kind of repeat efforts that you actually need from a particularly tight 5 in the loose. But scrummaging wise, he's phenomenal, and he's turned into a turnover machine, which is a great super strength to have as a prop. Yeah. But Billy Seller, I think, is brilliant and going to be brilliant. I suspect he won't get any game time bar an injury this tournament, but he's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Trevor Davison, just an old wizard, old prop. Got no issues with him being there. Evan Rodd, I think, is really coming into his prime. Mm-hmm. I think you could make a good case for an England front row, which is when all fit and available, Rod, Cowan Dickey, Ashrapoku Vajor with Genge, George, Hayes as you change, and you start, in that kind of South African mould of seeing the front row as a unit. because I think they work really well as a front row unit.
Yeah.
I think Bevan Rod's really come on with his scrummaging, and he's still great in the loose. Manny Eogan, who I'd only found out this week is from these ends, and one of the guys I was playing with on Saturday taught him maths. So confirmed they didn't teach him any rugby.
Yeah, it's quite easily forgotten that your ends is part of the Northampton catchment area in certain parts.
Weird. Yeah, very weird. But I think he's coming on leaps and bounds as well. I think his scrummaging is really, really strong, as he proved against Bordeaux the other week.
Yeah, all I say on Yogan, he had a game where he got mullered. I can't remember who it was against, but he got kind of yanked off at like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And he has been like a different player since then. He's absolutely responded to it. So fair play to him.
Absolutely. I mean, he's coming into a really good prime age for a prop. He's certainly big enough. You know, if is it Tom Harrison, the scrum coach at England? He's getting a lot of talk up recently. You know, if he rates him, then that's a good sign, because that guy knows scrummaging. So I'm pretty happy with it, all in all. I'd say no complaints at all with that squad.
Fabulous. Well, we won't labour on about Six Nations much more, because, as we said, we've got a full special getting prepared for next week. I will only use this opportunity to plug the Six Nations Fantasy League. If you want to join, if you go onto the Six Nations app, the league code is 116848, and the password to join is UDAHJ. All capitals, UDAHJ. Just come along, join in, have a bit of fun. I very much enjoy the format and the way that particular app does fantasy rugby. It's really good for tracking how games are going, seeing the live stats roll in. So I'd highly recommend it to any other rugby statistical noses like us. I think the other bit of general news I wanted to touch on, Rory, before I dig into a few specific segment. The Red Bulls acquisitions just keeps on rolling, Rory. I feel like it's just going to be a weekly piece because they haven't slowed down at all.
No, not at all. So today they've announced they're signing Will Rigg.
Yeah.
Yesterday they announced they're signing Joji Nasova.
Yep.
The Fijian winger, who I don't know a huge amount. I believe he was in the Sevens team in Paris.
Yes.
I'm not sure if they'd signed Cam Jordan when we recorded last week.
I think
Gloucester.
I think they'd announced it just as we were recording.
Right, so we probably didn't mention it. So a really good signing as a good, very good Prem level lock. Obviously, Rafi Quirk, one of the other recent ones. So they're building a very interesting squad.
Yeah.
They're re-signing a fair number of the current squad. So it's very it's interesting to see the profile of team they're putting together, because if you look at the two wingers they've signed, this lad Nasova and the lad from the Hurricanes, whose name neither of us are confident in pronouncing.
I tried it last week. I didn't get any. I wasn't cancelled, so I can't have been that far off.
No, true.
No.
Put those two together with Josh Hodge, plus presume they'll try and keep Christian Wade, but he may try another sport.
Maybe not after this week.
Maybe not after this week. You've got a really exciting back three. Will Rigg brings a lot of solidity to and sort of power and pace to the centres, where they've already got Arnold and Hurl, who are a solid couple of options there. I suspect they'll want more.
Yeah.
And then up front, they've signed another prop from the Hurricanes.
Pori Rakate or something along those lines.
Something like that. Yeah, I won't pretend to have watched too much of him, but the highlights looked exciting.
Yeah.
They've signed another 3 players from Exeter, I think, at this point. Rossi Tuima's off there.
It's interesting. If you look at the profile of player, they're all either really industrious workhorses or are just athletical freaks. So I think they're creating a team that's going to be very social media friendly, which I think makes for exciting times next season, because I think there's going to be lots of very exciting stuff to watch. If you are a Red Bulls fan, you are absolutely within your right to be excited. I will just caution anyone. You're bringing in a lot of new players. Just look at how Gloucester started this season and what that looked like when you bring new players together with just one little pre-season in. It isn't going to click straight away. I think that's just the caution The cautionary tale I will give Red Bulls fans: yes, be excited, but don't expect it to be absolutely rocket fuel from the second the season starts next season. I think it could end being some really, really exciting stuff with the players they're signing, but just cautionary tale.
I did see that Dan McFarland is now the big tip to come in as a head coach, or DOR. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Next season is going to be an interesting one to try and predict.
Yeah. Well, this season's hard enough as it is. But, less about Red Bulls because, we'll probably talk about them next week, even in a Six Nations special, though, the way they're going. They're recruiting. They'll probably announce DuPont or something. But I wanted to do a little section on RFU news because, Rory, you brought to my attention a few things going on in the rugby journalism world, and I thought, let's have a chat about it. First of all, you brought my attention to a Northern Strategy, kind of an RFU initiative up in Yorkshire. What's going on there?
Yeah, the general picture is, over the last week, there seems to have been some sort of big PR push on the RFU. Probably trying to put it in line with the Six Nations coming out, but it feels to me like part of a big attempt to reset how the RFU is viewed within the English game, and to try and put forward a more positive face and put forward the idea that there's a real strategy behind what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So there's sort of three different stories that all kind of coalesce around that theme of the RFU has a strategy and a plan and something we're trying to do. So the first bit is this Northern Strategy. So again, I came across this, it was an interview with Ian McGeechan and other stakeholders within Yorkshire rugby. Basically talking about the plan to revitalise the game in Yorkshire. So obviously there's no Prem club in Yorkshire at the moment. Some might have missed that Doncaster announced over the last week and a half that they are going down from a full-time side to a hybrid.
Yeah,
down to a part-time side, which is a
big blow.
A sign that, where it comes down to is the owner, who is a rugby fan and he's a rugby man through and through, but he's put a lot of money in and they're currently 11th in the champ. They've made some big signs and they're one of three full-time sides, I think, in that league at the moment.
Yeah.
Them, Worcester and Ealing, I think, are the only full-time teams. So, on the face of it, that's quite bad news. However, what it seems to be the plan to do at the moment is they're looking to align the Yorkshire Academy, which is currently run by the RFU, with a to-be-decided top-level Yorkshire franchise, which they will hope to put in the Prem, of which Doncaster want to be that option. So I think Doncaster are right-sizing themselves now to then accelerate into the Prem, potentially looking for an external investor.
Right.
That seems to be the gist of it. Doncaster seem to be saying, we want, whatever the equivalent of Red Bulls is to come in and buy Doncaster.
Yeah. Doncaster Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, whatever it may be, that sort of thing. So, but they're trying to line it up with the Yorkshire Academy, which is a good plan.
Good move, yeah.
Because at the Yorkshire Academy, there's been plenty of talent that's come through there, the likes of Burrow at Sale is a recent example of a player who came through that academy. But at the moment, there's no pathway for Yorkshire players to play in Yorkshire, and there's a big point of people want to be able to play with their mates because not everyone's going to make it in the Prem. So they want to be able to have the option to play with people they grew up with, play with their mates, stay at the local team, become the local hero at the top level club, ideally as well. Yeah. So it's kind of all part of that. So there seems to be a strategy where Doncaster, kind of spearheaded by Sir Ian McGeechan, who's the part-time DOR/technical advisor to Doncaster, who's a Yorkshire man himself. They're sort of aligning up with the RFU, Conor O'Shea primarily, to put that pathway in place for Yorkshire rugby. And again, I think this is kind of charging up for when the time is right, putting a Yorkshire franchise in the Prem.
Okay.
That seems to be the goal.
Interesting.
I suspect there'll be some additional help from the RFU to put them in touch with potential investors if they can.
Interesting.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the Prem were also trying to do that because of this. It's such a big geographical area and it's such a hotbed of sport.
Yeah.
At the moment, everything's geared up to rugby. If you go to Leeds Rhinos, they're saying this article. If you're in Leeds Rhinos, you can see a pathway. If you're a parent with kids in the academy, you can see a pathway where you get through and play for Leeds Rhinos or another team in rugby league, Bradford Bulls, whoever it might be.
Yeah.
if you're a parent of a kid in the Yorkshire Academy, you can't actually really see the pathway at the moment, because it's you get through to 18 and then then what?
Yeah, and then
does someone pick me up? What do I have to do?
Yeah.
Do I have to go to university? What's the goal?
It's interesting because is there a change? Because obviously 18 months ago, 2 years ago, Northern Rugby was almost on its knees. Sale Sharks now have a very wealthy owner. Red Bulls, very wealthy owner group. Maybe the north of England becomes a hotbed for rugby once again. And maybe this is part of the strategy. I don't know.
Well, look, I mean, there's a general economic strategy in the UK to try and put more economic development in the north. My gut feel is rugby is trying to take advantage of that move. Be it one day there'll be an HS2, be it Manchester becoming an economic superpower in the north, all that kind of stuff. It's all kind of feeds in. They're trying to put money up north in general.
Yeah.
Rugby wants to take advantage of that moment. And to be honest, with the amount of sporting talent that gets produced across not just rugby, but multiple sports in Yorkshire in particular, but across the north, you'd be daft not to try and take advantage of it.
Absolutely. And I saw that so you mentioned there's kind of 3 strategies in play here that have kind of been almost blanket put out into the media. The other one being a specific kind of strategy around schools, getting new fans, getting new players in, and the other one being around the revenue streams.
Yeah, so these all kind of coalesce. So there's in terms of the revenue, so we know there's an argument between Richmond County Council and the RFU. The RFU has threatened to move Twickenham to Milton Keynes or Birmingham, because the Richmond County Council won't let them hold more than 3 non-rugby events per year. And the RFU want to revamp Twickenham, which it needs to, if we're honest.
Yep.
But it can't do that if it hasn't got the revenue stream to pay for it.
Yep.
So the one that gets talked about a lot is they lost the opportunity to host Beyonce because she wanted 3 nights in a row, and Richmond County Council only let them have 2. Richmond County, for all you can criticise Twickenham as a stadium and as a venue and the issues with transport getting in and out, that's all kind of part of this push, and what they're trying to do to help with the transport links and change things around antisocial behaviour, all that kind of stuff. Talk about undercover policemen, undercover stewards, anti-pee paint, all that kind of stuff. But the long and short of it is Twickenham Stadium is vital for the local economy of Richmond. It's something like 90 million a year just off traffic going to the stadium. Now, if you increase the number of non-rugby events from 3 to 15, which they're looking to do, how much more money is that going to put into your local economy? Maybe it doesn't double it, but maybe it adds another 30-40% of revenue from visitors to the area.
No brainer.
And on top of that, you're stifling a major business concern from growing and hitting expanded revenue. So I think something's going to have to intervene there. I suspect there will be an intervention at some point, because it's something that the DCMS, Department for Culture, Media and Sport, have been quite active.
Getting all political here, Rory.
Well, they've been generally quite active in intervening on some of this stuff recently. It's all part of the wider economic picture of, we've got to kind of encourage businesses to grow and create revenue. So gut feel is they'll find a way through this. At the moment, it seems like the RFU is just trying to kind of appease the residents. Because it's primarily the residents who are objecting. And then in line with this, they've also the RFU have put a target in place over the next 4 years to increase the number of players by 50,000. And they're doing that primarily by targeting schools.
Yeah, smart.
And again, primarily schools that aren't current rugby playing schools.
Good.
So there's a couple of things around that. There's a form of rugby that they're encouraging, which has uncompetitive scrums and lineouts and breakdowns. It's effectively a form of touch rugby, I think.
Is it
with some contact in the loose?
Oh, so it's not T1.
I think it is T1. I think that is what when they described it.
So T1's the brand of rugby that Man v Fat play, for instance. So
right.
It is touch, but it includes things like scrums, it includes things like breakdowns, but it's uncompetitive.
Yeah.
So it introduces you to the basics of the sport, basically.
Right. Okay, great. So yes, that is what they're talking about. So they're trying to introduce that to more schools. They want to expand the playing base by 50,000. They will say 50,000 more registered players by 2030. And the interesting part of it is, for all the doom and gloom, actually youth registered players have been growing and adult registered players has stayed stable. So the number of players is actually good.
Take that.
Yeah. The issue is fixtures being fulfilled.
Yes.
Because
you know firsthand.
As I know firsthand. The thing is, there's a lot more options for people to do these days. You know, this isn't the same. It's not the same landscape it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago where, you know, what were you going to do on a Saturday if you weren't going to go and play sport? People have got options now, and they've got obligations. You know, society's changed a lot, etc., etc., etc. So it's not, you can't guarantee that everyone's available every week to play rugby, but they are trying to increase the number of players so they can ensure that fixtures. This is why they've revamped the regions for a lot of the lower leagues to kind of help with travel times, etc., which I think's, you know, by and large is a good initiative. And then parallel to this, they're looking to increase the number of dedicated fans by 500,000.
Interesting.
So this is increasing from 5.2. So the data suggests there are 5.2 million dedicated rugby fans in England, and they want to increase that to 5.7.
Okay.
So the way this is defined is someone who will go out of their way to watch an England international and will rarely miss it if ever. So they think it's about 5.2 million.
Interesting.
Which
that's a good number.
It's not bad. It's not bad number. So, but the goal to increase by 500,000 then puts it on par with cricket.
Okay.
So then puts rugby very much, you know, in that battle for second place for top sports in the country, you know, because there's no point trying to aim for football. It's not worth it.
It's an admirable ambition, I'd say, and it feels like a realistic one rather than saying, as you say, take on football.
Yeah, I think so. So obviously, you know, part of this is the women's game off the back of the Red Roses World Cup. So big increase in women's players, which is already happening rapidly.
Yeah.
They're going to be investing 500 million quid in grassroots sports over the next 4 years.
Big numbers.
So, you know, they're doing, you know, more things like, I think they call them schools officers or rugby development officers, something like that. So basically RFU representatives who go and do coaching courses and outreach to local schools and that kind of thing. So it feels like, you know, between those three things, the RFU to one extent or another has rather got its act together.
I think you're right, Rory. And I reckon if you were to go back through the Ruxmalls and Ovalballs catalogue, I think somewhere in season 1, we did a particular episode where we spoke about things the RFU could do to fix the game. I'm pretty sure 2 of those things we said is what they should do. We said they should look at getting rugby into state schools, in non-traditional rugby schools, increase the player base. And I think we also mentioned the need to utilise and try and get rugby interested in traditional sporting hotbeds like the north of England and Yorkshire. So once again, RFU, you're welcome.
Look, the long and short of it is, our mob, time and time again, proves itself to be the zeitgeist of this sport. And if anything, ahead of the curve.
Yeah, we're nothing but a humble pod.
Look, we're an honest pod, but we're humble with it. And, you know, we're humble enough to just be pleased that the game's moving in the right direction. And look, we don't want credit for it. No. We want lots more people to listen so we can launch a Patreon and you can pay all our bills. We don't want credit for it.
Shush, Rory, don't give away the game plan. You know, we've been going for a year now. It's going really well. We're so close. No, we do it because of the love of the game, Rory. But yeah, if a slice of that 5.2 million who are already dedicated rugby fans do want to listen...
50%. If 50% of you listen to us, then we're great.
Yeah, actually, I would want them to reline that stat. I think a dedicated rugby fan should be measured by whether they listen to the Ruxballs and Ovalballs podcast. And sadly, that number isn't quite 5.2 million at this point in time. But tell your friends, share it with them. They'll be pleasantly surprised. But hey, we digress. So that's a slightly extended news section, but I think some good meaty stuff in there, Rory. We'll dig now into round 10 of the Gallagher Prem and run through those games, do our textbook analysis, and then see what we've got left to do. And we're going to start off, Rory, and I know in recent weeks and months we've been giving Gloucester a hard time. We're starting off with the Gloucester versus Bath game. I really would like you to approach this with a positive mental attitude, Rory, because my headline for this game, personally, was that Gloucester were the better team.
Well, thank you, David. I'm sure it won't have gone unnoticed by you that I'm back in my Gloucester shirt for the first time in some weeks.
Resplendent in red, Rory. Resplendent in red.
Yes. I talked in the last couple of weeks about some cautious optimism off the back of our losses in the Champions Cup, but improved performances. This game, it's not even cautious optimism; it's full-on optimism that we've turned a corner here. Bit of 3D chess from Skivs early in the week, pretending that we didn't have anyone coming back from injury, and then selecting 3 or 4 players coming back from injury straight into the squad, which is great to see.
We like that.
Yeah. So we saw the return of Josiah Edwards-Giroux at 13, who was excellent. Talk about him in a bit. Obviously, Thomas back at 9, Venter back in the back row, Jack Mann on the bench, Cam Jordan on the bench.
Yeah.
Thorley on one of the wings. So slightly stronger squad than we've been privy to the last couple of weeks from Gloucester. Started poorly. Started with Gloucester stealing a line out, going on the attack, and then turning the ball over and Bath running the length of the field and scoring. At which point, 2 minutes into the game, I'm thinking, oh no.
Here we go.
Yeah. But it very quickly, things turned around. So Valrapava Ruskin scores 5 minutes later. Really, really good play. So one of the big headlines, Gloucester's line out functioned properly.
Very impressed. Very impressed.
And I'm going to save a special section to talk about Will Crane in a moment. But
fantastic.
Headline is the line out function in this game. So we actually win a line out. In fact, we stole a line out in this one, then played very well. Seb Atkinson makes a break. Josiah Edwards-Giroux makes a break and offloads to George Barton, who clatters through Santi Carreras, bowls him over.
Lovely.
And then they play off the back there, and Val bowls all the way through. I think it's Ted Hill and Josh Bayliss to score the try. Proper heart and desire to score.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're now thinking, all right, well, we've got a game on here. But it'd be mad to think we go on from there to win the game.
Yeah.
Then 10 minutes or so later, we win a penalty. We kick to the corner, go to a maul. Maul doesn't go anywhere. Not surprising. Bath have a stronger pack in general. They then play some nice phases, not really making any ground. Start making a little incremental bit of ground towards the goal. And Charlie Atkinson comes like a missile on a direct line under the posts and absolutely fires under the pitch. And you're going, what the fuck is going on here? All right, let's go. Thomas gets a 50-22 that's nearly a 22-22.
Oh, yeah.
So you think, right, everything's going our way now. Okay, this is someone's put a curse on Bath, whatever it is. Right, let's just enjoy this for what it is.
Yeah.
And another 5 minutes later, I think it's Charlie Atkinson makes another break. Again, we've got down into the Bath pitch because our line-out actually works. So we're suddenly retaining ball. Charlie Atkinson makes a nice little break down the right. It's a really good sweep and move around the back of the ruck. The back line basically comes in late. He makes the break, throws a nice pass out to Ludlow on the wing, who then pops it inside to Seb Atkinson to score. At that point, I think it is 21-7.
Yeah.
So I'm on cloud 9, obviously, and thinking, right, what's going on here? All of a sudden, yeah, perfect. And then obviously Bath think, right, well, if we're going to combat this, we need to implement our highly sophisticated, exciting, theatrical king moves.
Some high octane stuff.
Yeah, Gloucester's discipline starts to fail them. I think probably partly under the pressure of not having won many games this season.
Yeah.
But also, if we're honest, under the pressure of the power of Bath. But Bath's attacking play kicks into gear. So Dan Frost scores a line-out maul. Then Guy Pepper, who comes on, and he's phenomenal in this game, by the way.
Yeah, I think because he came on at the 30-minute mark. I feel if he hadn't come on at that point, the result may have been a step too far for Bath, even Bath to come back. I think he was pivotal for them coming back in this game.
Absolutely changed the game for them. He scores a line-out maul. Interestingly, Bath's line-out really struggled. They nailed these two, but actually Gloucester put them under a lot of pressure in the line-out, and actually Dan Frost's throw-in as a whole wasn't particularly good. But Josiah Edwards-Giroux puts a great little try-saver on Dan Frost, who looks absolutely diving in on the corner. Great try-saver. But it's all, at this point, it's all very back and forth. I think at this point, it's 21-19. So half-time 21-19. Probably reflects better on Bath than they deserved.
Yeah,
Gloucester have been very good in this half, but the discipline and power starting to wane at the end of the half. They then, over half-time, the Bath bombs have to come on 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So, just to give you an idea, listeners, for anyone who didn't see the game, on the Bath bench, we already mentioned that Guy Pepper's come on after half an hour. Also on the Bath bench, Keputu Apolotu, Beno Abano, Thomas Atoy. Yeah. So, of those, all of the forwards come on 50 minutes. So that shows you where Joe Grant was on this game.
Yeah.
You know, they may well have done that anyway, but he certainly wasn't hanging about to bring all of those players on.
No.
And despite that, Gloucester win a scrum penalty on their own 5-metre line, end up going down the other pitch, and Afo for Sogbund barrels over in the corner to score Gloucester's 4th try and the bonus point.
What a day. What a day for Gloucester fans.
Huge. So then, panic stations in Bath. We've really got to go for it. We've got to turn on the flare. We've got to put, we've got to absolutely run it off the pitch.
Yeah.
So they go for a pick and go from everywhere option.
I've said it once, and I'll say it again, Rory. Bath, incredibly effective, but God, they're boring.
Honestly, I was watching it like, at this point it's inevitable, right? Because I know that they're going to win this game, because you can't just defend constantly against that when you've got the pack that Gloucester had out, manful and very committed in really good moments, repelled a lot of attacks from Bath. But it's just relentless pressure. And the fact that they're willing to pick and go from basically 40 metres out, and they reinforce the ruck. I'd say 75% of the time illegally, but no one calls them up on it. But at this point, you just kind of know what's going to happen. When Finn Russell scored his try, because the ball, they were offside and that wasn't called, whatever. At this point, you're not expecting the referee to give us anything. But the ball spills out the back of the Gloucester ruck after they steal it, and Russell is just on hand to dive over from half a metre out. You're like, well, at this point the cards have been dealt, and obviously puts a penalty over on about 73 minutes to kind of take the lead, and then another one a bit further on to finish it off.
All I'll say on that, Rory, is I thought it was quite odd of Finn Russell, this lauded attacking genius in world rugby, to shush the Gloucester crowd when he scored that penalty or that try, despite him being in charge of the back line that was being outplayed by the opposing back line. I thought it was a bit rich.
It was a bit rich. I don't mind a bit of pantomime, and the shed never minds it when someone gives it back.
They love it. They love it. I know why he done it, but I just thought, come on, Finn, you need to recognise here that you've been outplayed here, realistically.
Yeah. I would say Charlie Atkinson comfortably the better 10 on the day.
Absolutely.
But, Bath won the game. They do what they do. They are ruthlessly efficient. They play precisely to their overall strength, which is the power they have in their pack. Again, we've talked about it a lot. I don't think it's very entertaining, but it does win games. So, if you're happy with that, and you should be, by the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy with that.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But it is what it is. Let's not pretend, you're in the same league as Bordeaux or Toulouse or even Northampton for entertainment quality.
Yeah, not going to bite at that, Rory, because I agree.
But for me as a Gloucester fan watching that, it was a lot of the best qualities we had last season, with the obvious caveat that we were still missing a number of frontline players.
Yeah.
But the kind of endeavour of it and the way we tried to play the game, despite obvious inequalities in terms of the size and power of a lot of the players, I was really, really pleased with. We had Deon Gwyn in the locks.
Great game.
Really great game. But he's the Welsh under-20s captain, and he's a 6. Yeah. We're still making do in a number of ways, but as a whole, I was delighted with it as a performance. I'm gonna just, if you'll indulge me a moment, I'm just going to talk about Will Crane.
You go ahead.
So the story is now pretty well publicised. I think most people will have seen that. This is a guy he's a mortgage advisor. Yeah. And we brought him in when we were because we had no hookers left. That's the ultimate. That is the long and short of it. We had to bring in someone in on loan from Hartbury, Will Crane, because we had run out of hookers. Jack Singleton's basically had a heart attack. Seb Blake's broken his hand. Jack Ienard, who knows? Freeman Price, is injured. So we had to bring someone in. And, let's be honest, the first couple of games were difficult, as you would expect for Will Crane. Yeah. The last couple of games, I think against it was looked like things were improving against Edinburgh. Things really improved against Toulon, and in this game he was frankly nothing short of heroic. Because he's been asked to basically play, because the guy on the bench, George Knowles, is effectively an 18-year-old. I think he's basically been asked to play as close to 80 minutes every week as possible. As a part-time player, to step up to the Prem and basically have to play 80 minutes, 70, 80 minutes every week against the likes of Edinburgh, Toulon, Bath.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to say he looked like he belonged at the Prem or anything like that, but to hold up the way he did, to improve at the line out at the rate that he has, you know, obviously in conjunction with the whole pack improving the line out. I appreciate it's not just him. You know, so nearly got his try in this game. Really wish he'd got one. But the story's phenomenal. The job that he's done for Gloucester over the last few weeks, actually, you know, it is fairy tale stuff for anyone who's never quite made it.
Yeah.
And he's sort of proved to people what he's about and proved to what quality there is there.
It's a lovely story, and I would love it if Gloucester were to offer him something that, even when all these other hookers come back, because let's face it, Gloucester's hooking department was not setting the world on fire before the crisis they're in. No. I would love it if they were just to back Will Crane to see how he can keep improving for the rest of the season.
I think it's a very good argument to keep him about. Obviously, he's got an actual 9 to 5 to go back to at some point.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know what the options are for him on that. But I was so pleased for him in this game because he was genuinely outstanding. You know, I actually think he was better than Dan Frost on the day. Certainly in the line-out department, I think he's justified the fact that Gloucester kept him around and chose him. And as a story, I just think it's phenomenal. Like, it's a proper like sporting romantic kind of story.
Absolutely.
So I'm so pleased for him, and you know, I was probably quite critical in his first few weeks, but you know, as part of a general criticism of the Gloucester performances. But you know, I think he's properly stepped up. So you know, to Will Crane, you know, we say thank you for your contribution to Gloucester because you've been nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah. I think what a turnaround we've seen, not just from this podcast, but I imagine in general from Gloucester fans about how maybe his first outing compared to how he is now. Yeah, absolute credit to the man. Like I say, I hope he gets rewarded in some sense with something more long term, or a way of balancing out.
I'd name a standoff.
Name a standoff. Yeah, there we go. There's a campaign. Fantastic. Well, yeah, but unfortunately, Bath did come away from this game with the bonus point.
Yeah, should make that clear. Sorry. We did lose.
I feel like I've given you enough time to laud what was a marvellous, gutsy performance from Gloucester. Actually seeing them playing with what felt like actual passion. They wanted to win. There's no question mark about their commitment. Like, it's the first performance I've seen from them in the Prem in that fashion for quite some months. So it was really good to see, because I think a good Gloucester makes a good Prem. But we must move on, Rory, from the unfortunate loss for Gloucester. And sadly, we move on to a headline: Exeter Chiefs 3, Bristol 8.
It was an unfortunate loss to Gloucester. This was unfortunate for everyone who watched it. Which I did. Dear listener, I watched this game so you don't have to.
Yeah.
To be fair to these teams, the rain was biblical.
Conditions not great.
It was audible through the telly, right? You could hear the rain off the stands. Like, this was outrageous weather for it. And I'll be honest, it kind of set the tone for the whole game. I'll be honest, it's quite possibly the worst game of rugby I've ever watched on the telly. This is a tough watch. I think what I will grant these two teams is that they were fully committed to this game. You know, there was some nuggety defence on both sides.
Yeah.
The way that Bristol held off, I think it was at the start of the second half, Exeter kept the ball for like 30 plus phases. They're basically trying to do a current Bath / old Exeter kind of style.
Yeah.
We're just going to pick and go for as long as we can until we break you. And Bristol held them off for it's got to be 30, 35 phases, right? But all in all, there is not much to say about this game, really. The kicking was hard because the wind was up, so the kicking was really difficult. The handling was abysmal because again, it was a bar of soap, so it was just constantly being dropped and knocked on and scrums. I would say Ellis Genge had a tough day at the office in the sense of he had to do about 40 scrums. Put real pressure on Shumbadze, the Georgian lad, for Exeter, but by and large, so the first points of the game, Henry Slade scores a penalty on 29 minutes, make it 3-0. Bristol's discipline had been generally quite poor, and Exeter were defending pretty manfully. But then about 5-6 later, Exeter basically they try and do a pullback. It gets dropped by Slade, and then it just keeps going backwards. It basically ends up Slade chased it back, dives on the ball, and slides over the line. So Bristol get the 5-minute scrum. Quite a weird moment, but it was poor.
Yeah.
So Bristol had the 5-minute scrum. They tried to play from it, but the ball gets knocked down by Slade, and then Lewis Rees-Zammit picks it up, runs kind of an arc behind the gain line, finds Heward with the overlap, puts him into the corner. So it's a nice enough try, but it's probably the one moment of quality through the whole game.
Yes, the only bit of rugby of note, I'd say.
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's not much. I mean, Tom Jordan had a generally quite a difficult day. Like, it was a bad game, and he wasn't very good in it.
Yeah.
Harry Randall.
Those conditions don't suit a Harry Randall. Well, those conditions don't suit the way Bristol Bears play. Let's face it.
No, it doesn't. I mean, James Williams scoring the Bristol's penalty on 79 minutes and confirming the end of the game was kind of the best part of it, because it was just meant I didn't have to watch anymore. Awful. I mean, the only things worth noting are for Bristol, Luatua back in the starting lineup, big for them.
Good to see him back.
Gab Zibatoy on the bench came on for the last sort of 5-6 minutes as well. So again, really good for them.
Yeah, prepare your fantasy teams, people.
Yeah, absolutely. For Exeter,
Bram Bampo's back.
Well, Bram Bampo back, good. Hooper off, potential knee injury, bad.
Yeah. I think I saw somewhere that it's not supposed to be as bad as it looked, is what I've seen. It might be 4 to 6 weeks is what I've seen.
Yeah, which, that's hopeful, but you got to think between that and Lennox Catal, they're two big sort of international Australian.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's not good news either way.
Unideal, unoptimal for them.
Yes,
but yeah, look, we shouldn't dwell on this game because it was a rubbish watch. But
okay. On that note, Rory, I'm not going to dwell on it. Because
Bristol got the win. Exeter, I think it's the first loss Exeter have had at home all season. So from that point of view, great for Bristol. Good signs of their championship credentials, getting out of the tricky winter period, but which traditionally is not their strongest time of the season. But the game itself,
less said the better, I think. Now let's flip the coin. Next game, slightly different scoreline. Saracens 73, Newcastle Red Bulls 14. Now this feels like a little bit of a reality check for the Newcastle Red Bulls, who've been in a little bit of good form and getting some really good performances here. This feels like a little bit of a crashing back down to earth, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is they started very well, and they should have been 2 tries up if a certain Christie hadn't got himself knocked over the dead ball line by Charlie Bracken, as he was going to dive under the posts. Yep. Really, really poor moment for an experienced player. Very good moment for Bracken for not giving up the cause. Yeah, but a proper howler. Because that would have put Newcastle 14-0 up. But from there, boy, it really didn't go in their favour. Against it's not really one that you want to analyse in great detail, other than reality check's probably fair. I would also say Newcastle in general have looked poor away all season. They're clearly built for the big home games in front of the sellouts at Kingston Park, which is kind of, I think that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, I don't think they're quite at the stage where they're trying to build an away following. They certainly weren't up for it after the first sort of 10-15 minutes. It was pretty poor from their point of view. I think the focus really probably needs to be on Saracens for a team that clearly had a rocket put up them. After last week. Yeah, all these previous weeks where we've been claiming there's clearly something not quite right there. There wasn't really anything wrong with this performance from their perspective that I could see. No. Well, I mean, We maybe did diagnose it because obviously Mark McCall's announced this week that he's stepping down as DOR and Brendan Venter's coming in.
Once again, Rory, I don't want to take the credit for things, but once again, we are the oracles of just rugby. We've called it yet again.
Nothing gets past us.
Nothing gets past us. I'm convinced every DOR and every club owner must listen in to us because we just are making sense. And it seems, maybe that has brought a bit of a change of atmosphere at the StoneX, because this certainly was not the same Saracens side I've seen in recent weeks for sure. But the main man, Rory, how much is this league going to miss Tom Willis?
He's so physically unique in this league. Since obviously since we lost Jasper Wiese, there's just not another runner like him. I mean, we've had Andre Esterhazy, Jasper Wiese, and Tom Willis in recent years. It's never felt like they've all been there at the same time at their kind of peak or playing their peak kind of level rugby. Maybe we're only destined to have one a year or one in the league at any one time. But I just love these giant bruising players.
Yeah, so good.
I think it's you and I are of an age where we grew up watching lots of Tuolangis and Tonga Weirs. Just big men, Samu Manoas, just crashing around the Prem.
Yeah. We were spoiled.
We were spoiled, and actually there haven't been that many of them in recent years. Those three are kind of the ones that spring to mind. Kata, maybe. It's not quite the same.
No.
I love these giant bruisers like this. I really hope we get another one in the league. I think there's a couple of lads coming through the youth that could well fit into that mould.
Fingers crossed.
But fingers crossed, we're going to miss him because he's just the fact that I think it's for defenders beaten. I think the closest challenge to him is Todoro.
Yeah, he's about 30 behind.
Yeah, for a number 8. So it's like bonkers stats.
It genuinely is bonkers. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I think through the years where I've been tracking stats, I don't think another player is anywhere near, and that's including seasons. Because I think the first season I started doing it, Esterhazy was still around. He wasn't doing this sort of numbers that he's doing this season. Like, he is on another level, and yeah, I'm just gonna miss watching him play. And I'm a Saints fan. I don't take joy in saying I enjoy watching Saracens play because naturally they're our rivals.
Yeah,
but I love watching Tom Willis play. I love it.
He's just a freak.
He is a freak.
I can't help. I love watching a freak on the
and
rugby.
He's that good. It's making me really think twice about my staunch defence of the RFU selection policy of sticking with rugby players. Because imagine just a back row of Jack Willis and Tom Willis together at the moment. Is there a better 7 and 8 in world rugby at the moment?
I mean,
and we're not going to see it on the international stage.
No, we are getting to the point where maybe that rule has served its purpose. I don't know that we're there yet, but I think we're getting to that point. It's just a shame that we probably won't reach that point until after those two have kind of gone past their peak, maybe even retired. Because you're right. To watch those two in an England shirt together would be quite something.
C'est magnifique.
Well, unfortunately, some French fans will be saying that. Whatever the French is for "c'est magnifique," they'll be saying that next season.
Très bien, Rory. Très bien. I think it's also worth, a nice little another hat tip to a certain Noah Kalori who picked up just another 4 tries for himself this season. Just the 4.
Just the 4. Obviously snubbed from the England squad. He's been quite vocal about his ambitions to play for England this year and get the World Cup squad, which I think is good. I think I like that he's upfront about that. I'm pro that kind of attitude rather than going to get my head down and work hard and just see where the season takes me. It's like, no, I want to play for England and I want to retire as an England legend.
Perfect.
Brilliant. You do. You know what, mate? If you think you can do it, go and do it.
It reminds me of the noises I was hearing about Henry Pollock when he was coming through the system. He was very on the record saying he wanted to be the best player in the world one day. He'd said that. Great. If that is your goal, go for it. If Kalori is a goals-orientated player, and I saw those clips about him saying that he wants to go play for the Lions, he wants to win a World Cup with England, he wants to make the 2027 World Cup squad and be the starting week in, week out winger. Love it.
Well, at the moment, you wouldn't put it past him to get there. Obviously not right now, not this Six Nations, but I don't put it past him to achieve those things because at the moment he's achieving things that are rarefied air for players of his age. 19 still, it's mad.
Yeah. You forget how young he is.
I think presumably he's top scorer in the league now.
He is. He's got 12 tries. Tommy Freeman's on 10.
Yeah, I mean...
so he's clear. He's not only top scorer, but he's clear by 2.
I know. Old man Tommy Freeman at the grand old age of 24 or whatever he is obviously over the hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sky is the absolute limit for this kid. He's a phenom.
Yeah.
I
think the only thing that will be interesting, I'm expecting him to be in the England under-20 squad. So reality check, he is still qualified for under-20s. I think he's only just turned 19, so I think he might even be qualified for under-20s next year. I might be wrong on that, but he is still incredibly young. The French under-20 squad this season is stacked. So if he is at under-20s level, he's still playing a very, very good level of opponent in that tournament if he is there. So he won't be missing out too much on any development and stuff. I think it may have been a deliberate choice to try and make sure that England under-20 side is competitive with what is an incredibly, incredibly talented crop from France. I've seen their squad announced this week.
We'll give you the opportunity to give us an under-20s preview in next week's podcast.
Absolutely.
I think it's worth the listeners keeping their eye on that.
Yes.
I mean, for this game, I said I'm not gonna analyze it, blow by blow, because it's not actually worth it. Because Saracens so outclassed them. I would like to make one observation that I found watching this game of how incredibly irritating I found the commentator. Mostly that he kept talking about the wolf pack, just constantly referring to the wolf pack, and I just found myself in there going, sorry, are you in the Saracens PR team or are you a commentator? Shut up.
Yeah, and then they panned to the commentary team as he's drinking its Tiki Tiki Tonga beer and wearing a fez. Yes. Some of it almost feels like a little bit of the Premier Sports has leaked into the TNT coverage. It feels like
it's not all of them. It's just this particular bloke, and I don't know who it was.
I can't remember his name.
And it does tend to be in the games that are obviously not the
TNT Sports 5 games.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Whoever their sort of 5th and 6th choice commentators are often quite weak, and in this case, just unbearably irritating.
So once again, never missing opportunity to shamelessly plug our. Although I'm very much not available for this sort of thing, but I'm going to try anyway. If you do want some probably better, still probably slightly biased commentators, the Ruxballs Overballs podcast is more than happy to oblige.
Absolutely. Lay down the gauntlet. We'll come and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I agree. It's not worth going blow by blow in this game. It was a pasting. It was one-sided. It was one team significantly better than the other. And there's not much more you can really draw out of that or learn from it. I suppose on a similar theme, next game, Harlequins versus Leicester, talking about one team being significantly better than the other. I called this one so wrong, Rory. Yeah. I thought Harlequins were back, and they're not back. Harlequins are not back.
Do you know what? When I was doing my fantasy, I had this moment in my head where I was like, I bet you they don't get out for this one. And I dropped all my Quins players. I had Marcus Smith. I dropped Marcus Smith for Billy Sell because I was like, do you know what? I guarantee they won't turn up for this one. And I just saw it coming a mile away. Whatever is the malaise in the Harlequins squad, it is rife, and they were so clearly not going to bother with this game. It was, I
would argue, certainly if you're Jared Evans, it almost seems like you're self-sacrificing yourself, because some of the passes he was doing when he came off the bench was just some of the worst rugby skills I've seen at a Prem rugby game in some time. It looked deliberate. It was that bad.
Genuinely. You wouldn't have believed that this was effectively the same 23 that beat La Rochelle the week before.
I know. It made no sense.
You wouldn't even believe that this was 23 professional players.
The moment that really, really, really stuck out for me was the Freddie Stewart try, where
yes. Oh my God, can we please talk about this? I was chatting to a mate of mine who's a big Quins fan, and I mentioned this moment. He said, "Yeah, that was the moment I proper lost my rag."
Oh, it's just the defending. I've never seen.
Harry Williams wasn't even looking, and not like wasn't looking like like he just got it wrong, or he got his ball watching or whatever. He looked like someone in a cartoon trying to pretend like they were walking around innocent, like head in the edge, like.
Yeah. It was. I've never seen anything like it.
I was actually going, that is criminal.
Yeah.
Criminal defence. I mean, it's a good finish from Freddie Stewart, but my God, they didn't just... They unlocked the gate and put a welcome procession for him to run through that hole.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like, so he targeted, I think it was Williams, and I think it was Sam Riley, who's the one who made the attempt to tackle him. But, like, there wasn't a huge gap. Like, it shouldn't be that easy for a fullback to break through a prop and a hooker that easily.
You're not untouched. Not untouched.
Yeah, there was maybe 2 foot gap. It's not exactly a glaring gap in the defensive line.
If they'd leant in slightly, they'd have given him a good knock. Honestly, it was horrific. But you combine that with the Quins scrum crumbled.
Yeah.
This is the same scrum that battered Winnie Antonio the week before. Simon Kerrod. Look, I don't get me wrong. This is not Joe Hayes versus Winnie Antonio kind of. Joe Hayes is phenomenal. Nicky Smith's phenomenal. I'm a big fan of the Leicester.
And they were very good. They were very good on the day as well.
Yeah, I'm on record as being fans of theirs. But the Quins scrum, okay, Simon Kerrod is not first choice or second choice. He's probably third choice, loose head.
Yeah.
But he did a job on Winnie Antonio the week before. This week, and Delgado, international tight head. Jack Walker's been in and around a lot of England squads. Mm-hmm. They crumbled. I mean, to the point where it looked like they just weren't trying to push.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be that guy being like, I could have done a better job, but I was sort of watching it going, I don't think I could do a worse job.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I'm rolled out for old Chuddians, the third team somewhere, and doing a pretty good job if Harlequins can play like that.
Honestly, I mean, it really summed up by I think is it Bradley, the 12, when he shelled the ball with basically just the try line begging, and it wasn't a bad pass. It went straight to the breadbasket. He just shelled it,
and that would have been such a beautiful try as well. To be fair, that was one bit of really nice rugby.
Yeah, Caden Murley made it. Yeah. Caden Murley, probably the only shining light for Quins at the moment.
It's at the point where I'm feeling really bad for Caden Murley because he looks frustrated.
He is sweating blood for that club, and at the moment, no one else is. When Bradley shelled that, I mean, I think the writing was on the wall, but it was. I mean, the stoop was quiet. I mean, and there was an exodus pretty early on. I mean, there's nothing really to say to. I mean, I think when Marcus Smith was doing his usual, trying to do it all and trying to find an option, which I don't blame him for. He's just trying to find some inspiration from somewhere. Yep. When Joaquin Morrow absolutely buried him into the turf, it was like so emblematic of the Quins scam.
It definitely, it was. I'm not a Quins fan. I think the listeners might have picked up on that by now, but It's at a point now where I'm almost at that same stage as I'm at with Welsh fans, is that I'm just kind of sorry that you're kind of going for this. Maybe they've just really taken to heart that the coach said, well, we're not concentrating on the Prem, we're only concentrating on Europe, because it's very clear they're not concentrating on the Prem after that performance.
Yeah. I text my mate, I said, look, it was very kind of your boys to help us amplify how good the Gloucester performance against Bath was the night before by letting us go above you with the 2 points that we secured by winning no points against Leicester.
Really kind of them.
The Parise try, like, it's in some ways it's a wonder try. In a lot of ways, the fuck was Luke Northmore doing? Again, he's got an England cap. Barely put a hand on him.
The thing is, like, we say all these players' names. Northmore.
These are names.
They're good players. These are good players. These are players that
you wouldn't have known it.
You put them in a different shirt, and I guarantee you get an 8, 9 out of 10 performance out of them. There's something not right at Harlequins, really not right, and there's no wonder there's. I think the latest link, was it Vern Cotter I've seen linked with the coaching job there.
Vern.
Yeah,
Vern.
Maybe that's what they need. I don't know, but
maybe
someone needs to go.
Not sure it's the man to bring the entertainment back to the stoop.
No, probably not. But it might bring that squad a bit of discipline and a bit of harsh reality. I don't know.
Oh.
But
great performance.
As I say, on the flip side, Tigers very, very good, very, very impressive.
Van Poorfleet, lovely try.
Yeah, Van Poorfleet's started coming to form, which is really good, going to Six Nations time. Freddie Stewart, I thought, has continued to look really good this season.
Yeah.
I always feel bad because I always, every so often, put out my kind of unwanted statistics for players, and it always looks quite bad on players like Freddie Stewart because at fullback you generally have to deal with the most hard to complete tackles and the highest kicks, the hardest ones to gather, so you often make the most turnovers and miss the most tackles. So it always looks like I'm digging it out. Just, I want it on record that I'm not. I recognise that those stats basically reflect the players who get involved the most, and he certainly gets involved an awful lot for Leicester.
I think he's been phenomenal this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's been great. I mean, I think Furbank is, on his day, the best fullback option England have. I think on form, Freddie Stewart is.
Yeah, to the point of, I think for the Wales game, Stewart should be starting at fullback over Furbank because I think you need to reward that form that he's had this season. Furbank, I agree. I think when in form is the best 15. Still remains to be seen if he's officially signing for the Harlequins sinking ship. But Freddie Stewart, fantastic performance. And I was going to pinpoint Nicky Smith and Joe Hayes as well, who just continue to be perhaps they may be the most consistently excellent prop pairing in the league at the moment. I think
not a bad shout. It's not a bad shout. I mean, I think they've been outstanding.
Yeah, because for longevity wise, because I think you probably could argue for like Thomas Dutoy and kind of Ben Urbano, but the way Bath rotate their props and things like Nicky Smith and Joe Hayes put in excellent performances week in, week out.
They are proper at the coalface old school props.
Yeah. So once again, another week of this podcast where we are only being complimentary to Leicester, and
you're welcome, Leicester fans.
Yeah. You're welcome. But yeah, it ended 34-7 in Leicester's favour, which is a big win at the Stoop in fashion speak. It's not somewhere that's easy to go to, although it looked particularly easy this week for Leicester. And it makes for an interesting. Let's see how things come back together after the Six Nations break, whether that continues for Harlequins and for Leicester. Final game of the round, Rory. Sale Sharks 29, Northampton Saints 43, up at the Core Pack, I think it's called now, not the AJ Bell. Somewhere Northampton's not won. They mentioned this about, 25 times in commentary. They've not won there since 2017 or something like that.
Yes, they hammered home that point, didn't they?
They hammered home that. I was quite pleased with the result, for obvious reasons, but I don't think the result necessarily shows the 80-minute performance that it was for 60 minutes, I'd say, like in the middle 60, quite a close contest.
Yeah, I mean, so Sale 29, Northampton Saints 43. It was 10-14 at half time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you stuck around for the second half, which admittedly, it was a hell of a gale force. So if you'd given up at half time, I wouldn't necessarily have blamed you if you were there. But what your money's worth in the second half. I think this still showed that there are some sort of underlying issues at Saints. I think in the first half, I would say Saints once again were kind of their own worst enemy. They weren't efficient like you would expect them to be.
They started very well, so they scored their first 2 tries really quickly, and then that inefficiency kind of crept in.
The next sort of 20-25 minutes, they were pretty profligate. I mean, Freeman shells a dolly in it with an open goal as well.
Yeah. Yes, that would have been a beautiful try as well.
It would have been. 10-14 at half time. I mean, it probably just about fair. I mean, it was pretty even first half, I would say, all in all. Obviously, Rafi Quirk scored a nice little snipe try. I think Sale looked good when they got in the red zone. Saints didn't a lot of that first half.
Yeah.
In terms of,
I think, barring the first 10-15 minutes, yes, I agree.
And then second half, I mean, it couldn't have started better for Sale. So I think it's Alex Wills gathers the ball off the kickoff, whereas I think it's Todro is meant to be backing up behind the lifting pod. It just doesn't get anywhere near it. Wills just takes it, and then Rafi Quirk's just keeping the tempo up and up and up, and they go all the way across the other side of the pitch, and Carpenter scores in the corner. It's a really, really good try. But it was a kind of another example of Saints, I would say, slightly casual approach at times they've taken in the last few weeks.
It's been creeping in a little bit.
There's a little bit of casual attitudes to the game at times, and I think sometimes with the best intentions of just trying to score really good tries, but sometimes it's in defence and in application. I don't know, it feels like there needs to be a little bit of a reset of expectations in some of the Saints players. Just be like, we can win everything here, but actually you've got to kind of apply yourselves.
Yeah.
Because that felt quite emblematic of some of the things that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. But then, to be fair, from there, Saints, they put on their best attack for probably 35 minutes, and Finn Smith...
Not Finn Smith.
Not Finn Smith, sorry, Robbie Smith sneaks one over. And basically what I think changed, they started getting Tom Pearson on the ball, which they didn't really manage to do in the first half. He hardly made a carry in the first half.
He was quiet in the first half.
Yeah, second half he actually got his hands on the ball for 20-25 minutes and actually started making some real impacts. But then, so Flaherty then scores. Joe Carpenter gathers the ball in kind of traffic, does really, really well. And then gets the ball to Ford, who puts in a lovely kind of inside ball to Ricky Samasa-White, who then makes kind of the break and puts O'Flaherty in. But then Todoro scores off, I think, Furbanks.
Yeah. I think it was like the first touch he had from coming off the bench.
Basically, the first thing he did. It's quite a loose kick chase from himself. Unusual.
It was a bad kick. It was a bad kick.
Yeah. And then Sales score, and then Saints score, and then basically the lead changed hand like 6 times.
Yeah, it did.
It's it's across the game. The Kemeny try in that sequence is worth talking about because it's a pass from Alex Mitchell off I think Callum Chick makes the break. Coles makes sort of pick and go, lifts it up to Callum Chick and makes the break. Pass it to Mitchell, but then does like an old school kind of nines diving pass out to Kemeny diving in the corner. It was a really nice move. Looked, and that's what Saints look like at their best.
Yeah.
But it's a bit. There's some issues in that game, but then Henry Pollock comes on, and then gets a couple of nice big high shots.
Yeah, they try to take his head off a couple of times.
Yeah, and then I don't know, kind of maybe Saints kind of minds click into place a little bit, and they never look like losing from there. So Coles scores on 75, and then Pollock obviously finishes it off with a nice big ash splash at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts. I mean, for me, Saints are so good to watch when they get it right, and it just feels like the last few weeks they're not getting it right as often as you expect of them.
Yeah, I said it the other week. It does feel like there's still moments where it does feel like there's like a half-second offness with some of the timing. I think some of the handling. You have to accept, so the conditions weren't great. As you said, it was blowing an absolute storm up there. I think they were getting the tail end of the storm that ruined the Bristol Exeter game up there. Because it was the evening kickoff. So obviously that would be playing a part and would be a factor as to why the handling wasn't great. But as a Northampton fan, I am still content because the endeavour's there and I can see what they're trying to do. If it's not coming off all the time, you kind of have to accept it when you try and play the way Northampton do. Like, it's not going to work every single time. I think the refreshing thing this season, and I think this is the comparison to last season, that when it doesn't go well, like the heads don't seem to drop like they did last season, and we're still able to go and get wins in tough places to go, like away at Sale. And I think a big part of that, I think the pack is considerably more impactful this year than they have been in more recent seasons. And I think it could be a real difference maker when we get down to kind of knockout stages of this competition. Because it was brought up in commentary, and I was trying to think whether I agreed. I think it was Austin Healy, and I very rarely do agree with him, but I think he made an argument about, have Northampton got the best balanced back row in the league? And when you think of like Kemeny, Pearson and Chick at 6, 7, 8 with Pollock coming off the bench, that does feel incredibly balanced when you're trying to capture line-out options, threats out wide, jackal threats, industry, ball carrying, like every single facet you want from a back row does seem to be covered. And I'm wondering if that is a big part of why we're able to, even when things aren't clicking, we're still looking pretty good.
Well, I think the big difference this season from last season is, and touch wood, you don't have as many injuries in the pack.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
So I also think back in this squad for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I'm still minded to go with my previous assertion that I think Alex Coles has been moving his game up this season. I feel like he's taken a step forward, and is he world class? I'm not sure, but I think he is moving in that direction because he's certainly top class in the Prem. Yes,
and he looks top class in Europe.
For me, and I know there'll be people out there who disagree with this, and I've seen lots of people predicting their match day 23s. For me, he has to be a starting lock for England this Six Nations, personally. based on form.
Look, I think it's a tight call between him and Chesham still, because I think Chesham also looks very good at the moment, and Chesham's got a lot of very good qualities, and he's probably slightly bigger, but there's actually not much in it between them. I wouldn't think there's more than 3 or 4 kilos between the two of them. But Coles has been phenomenal all season, and you're right. I think he has taken his game on, and I think his reading of the game in attack is probably his big standout compared to the other locks England have at their disposal, because he's a genuine try threat. He's a genuine attacking threat, much more so than Marrow, certainly. Chesham, I think, is quite good at this, but I don't think he's as good at Coles.
Yeah.
So I think there's a real opportunity for him in the camp this week to play on a market that says I should be starting ahead of Ollie Chesham. Yeah, now, I don't know whether he will, because my gut feel is Borthwick will go with the player with the most caps.
Yeah.
But I think the opportunity's there if he wants to take it.
Yeah, I hope he does. And I know I know you're going to definitely say I'm biased, but I'm watching him. Actually, no, I'm not going to say what I was about to say. But I was going to say, I remember having very similar feelings at a similar age about Courtney Laws, so Coles is only 25, okay? So he's still 25, 26, so he's still got 6, 7, 8 years. Yeah. Courtney Laws at this stage of his career was playing at lock, and a lot of the things he was getting challenged on to improve his game was being able to carry the ball better, reading the game better, being a better jackal threat. These are all the things Alex Coles have been working on.
Oh, look.
I'm not saying Alex Coles is as good as Courtney Laws. I'm just saying there's comparables at the same stage of their career about what they're doing with the way they're playing, and it's in the same position. Sure. So that's the only reason I'm drawing that comparison.
Yeah. Look, if he reaches Courtney Laws level, brilliant, because Courtney Laws is a player I miss playing for England hugely. So
my favourite player of all time, other than Sawani Tongawe.
Fair. So I think it's a fair shout. But no, look, Coles' trajectory is absolutely going in the right direction, and he's definitely in that run-in to start for England, because his form this season has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Should we put a little bit of time and focus on the other team in this context, Dave?
Fine. Well, I did want to focus on one part of the game that I thought Sale had the absolute upper hand. The aerial battle. I thought that they absolutely schooled Northampton in the aerial game. Alex Wills, in particular, I think was fantastic in this game. I would go as far to say he was definitely top 3 best wingers on the pitch.
Yeah, so top 1 would have been O'Flaherty, presumably. Then I guess Todaro, maybe second.
No comment, Rory. But I thought they were excellent on the kick chase. I thought Rafi Kirk and George Ford's kicking on the whole was pretty excellent, and really was basically the vehicle for Sale Sharks responding to that early start for Northampton, and that I think they built off of that really well.
Yeah, what do you make of? There was some talk. Alex Sampson was at great pains to point out that Sale weren't in free fall. What do you make of this Sale team at the moment? Because they've had a very disappointing season by their standards, and they don't look likely to put the same kind of run in that they have done in the last couple of years to make the top 4.
It is an interesting one, because yes, they've had their injury problems, certainly in the front row. And we've seen that can have huge impact on teams being able to build off of a solid kind of set piece and things like that. And I think that may be part of it. Losing the likes of Tom Roebuck, who's kind of their big try scorer last season, that's going to have an impact. But I would have thought the players that they still have at their disposal, that they should be able to navigate a number of results together. But they
should be doing better than they are.
They should be doing better than they are, and I can't necessarily put my finger on it. And I think maybe some of the big name players may need to take a bit of accountability here. Have we seen the best of Tom Curry in a Sale Sharks shirt this season? I think he's been. I think he's had a really quiet season by his standards. Jacques Vermeulen hasn't hit the levels he was hitting for Exeter. When he's played.
Obviously, they've been missing Dan de Priya, which is a big problem. Ben Curry's also been injured a lot, which is also a big problem for them. Rafi Quirk's coming into form now, but he wasn't in good form at the start of the season. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one to diagnose, isn't it? Really. Because even with some of those big players in and around them, they haven't looked that good.
No, it's almost a little bit like what we've been saying about Saracens in recent times, that there's something just not quite right. It's not quite clicking. I'm not going to go as far as saying it's on Sanderson, because I still think he has a lot of value to add up there, and I think he's done some really good stuff up there. So I don't think it's the same logic that I had around saying that Saracens were becoming stagnant under McCall. But I do feel that if George Ford doesn't have the answers for Sale, who else is able to unlock defences and who else is able to bring a bit of magic? And we saw in recent times that Rathy Quirk is why he's looking so good all of a sudden, because he is all of a sudden started to provide another person able to do that.
They just feel like another team similar to Saracens that haven't kind of moved with the times on the attacking play and look a bit old-fashioned, a bit rigid.
Yeah, a little bit. I think maybe they focus so much on, like, if you look at their season so far, I think in both competitions, both Prem and Champions Cup, they have made more tackles than any other team in any competition by quite some distance. Are they just physically being worn down by the amount of defending they're doing in every single game?
That could be it, because there are times when they look low energy.
Like, off like the top tacklers, like the top 10 tacklers in the league, like 4 or 5 of them are Sale Sharks players.
Yeah. It's mad.
Which is absolutely bonkers. So that could be part of it as well. And maybe that's part of the reason why they're getting all these niggly injuries and players that just don't seem to be able to get a good run of fitness, because they play such an attritional, offensively focused game. Is that replicated on the training paddock, and they're absolutely batting themselves in training? Like, these are things we don't get to see just as kind of armchair fans. But
maybe the Six Nations break's coming at a very good time for them.
Quite possibly. Maybe a bit of a rest, a bit of chance to recharge the batteries will do them a world of good. I don't know. I would never write off Sale Sharks until it's mathematically written off, because we've seen what they are able to do in terms of putting things. But
of course,
compared to last season, I've not seen the same threats and the same energy. No, so it's a fair point. It's a fair point. But as we said, Northampton deserved winners on the day, and looking very good for their top of the table position at the moment. But I also think the Six Nations has come at a good time for them, because, as you say, there's been a few little glimpses of things not quite being right. So maybe a chance just to have a break, reset, and come back at it with fresh eyes would be a world of good for Northampton as well, who normally do well in the post Six Nations block.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're not going to see any Prem games for 6 or 7 weeks now.
Yeah, March.
Because of the mad way that this season's organised. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how teams come back from this obviously enforced hiatus.
Yeah.
And who does what in that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we could say, let's have a look at the Prem Rugby Cup, but we don't really care about the Prem Rugby Cup.
We don't care, we're not going to watch it.
Like 95% of the 5.2 million dedicated rugby fans out there. But that's been the round 10 roundup for everyone. And we go back to what we were doing before with Prem Rugby, and we'll just do a quick fire, our teams of the week. Rory, I have hastily scribbled some notes and put together a ragtag team of the week. So let's just run through who we've gone. So who have you gone for in your loose head prop? I have gone Emmanuel Ayogun.
I've gone Val Rapava-Ruskin.
Fair. I'm happy with Val to be a good competitor for the Ayogun shout. I accept we may have a bit of biases there, but Val is a very validly
big try, big scrum. Had to come back on at loose head, scrummaged against Tom Statoy towards the end of the game as well, and held his own. I got a couple of turnovers as well. Yeah. He looked back on form.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the only reason I went Ayogun, one, because I'm a one-eyed Saints fan, as Rory will constantly remind you all. But I also think he probably had a better performance compared to, say, Bevan Rod, who is one of the better loose heads in the league. So I think it just does look favourably on him. Who's your tight head?
I've gone for Big Trevor Davidson.
I'm glad you've done that, because I thought I was going to get absolute pelters for going for a double Northampton Saints front row. But for that exact same reason, he
got one over Bevan Rod. There was a bit of back and forth on the scrum penalties in this one, but I think Saints overall won the scrum battle.
Yeah.
And Trevor Davidson looked a big part of the reasons why. I thought he was more instrumental than Manny Ayogun, which is why I didn't go for Ayogun. But I thought Trevor Davidson did a job on Bevan Rod in the end.
I love Big Trev because he's a throwback to like traditional, just solid, tight head prop. Like you can do whatever you want. He's just not budging. So
he looks like he could have been a contemporary of like Frank Cotton.
Exactly that. Who's your hooker?
Will Crane.
Oh, I went Will Crane as well. You couldn't go Will Crane. I know James Hadfield caught a couple of tries for Saracens, but I don't care. Will Crane.
I don't care. It's Will Crane.
Will Crane's my team of the week, just for that Gloucester line out all by itself. Second row, Rory.
In the four shirt, it was a toss-up for me between Cam Henderson and Alex Coles. But I'm going to concede on this occasion that Alex Coles was very good this week, so I will grant you Alex Coles.
Tick, I agree.
But I will shout I thought Cam Henderson was very good for Tigers.
In his tackling, like in defence, he was putting in some huge hits. Absolute Cam Henderson, very close second. And in your tight head lock shirt,
I will have to consider it's Van der Mescht this week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I deliberately didn't go Van der Mescht because I thought I would get accused of some sort of bias if I went 4 Saints shirts in the first 5. So I went Nick Asikwe.
Nick Asikwe was very good. That's not a bad shout, but I thought Van der Mescht was
he's fantastic. Yeah.
I thought he was at his imperious best in this game.
I wanted to pick him, but I just didn't want to be accused of being incredibly too biased. So, I'm not going to argue.
Well, you are biased, so why not lean into it?
Okay, who's your 6th then?
I'm not entirely certain this is where he went on the scrum, but I'm going to go Guy Pepper because I thought he was so instrumental to Bath's turnaround in the Gloucester game. I thought he was. I think he came on for the 8, but I actually think he packed down at 6. So I'm going to go Guy Pepper.
Okay, well I went Josh Kemeny. I nearly went Liebenberg because I thought he was good for Leicester as well in defence and really just does what Liebenberg does. And I maybe mistakenly went Pepper in the 7 shirt, and I think again that might be just down to just not being sure what position he came on at.
Yeah, I went for Ludlow in the 7 shirt actually. Again, probably feeling some bias here, but I thought Lewis was.
Hey, I'll allow it.
Yeah, but I thought Guy Pepper and Lewis Ludlow were kind of between them epitomised the best part of each team's performance. So for me, it was Ludlow in 7.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And your number 8, Rory?
Acknowledging that I thought Callum Chick was phenomenal, but I'm going to go Tom Willis.
Yeah, you can't. I completely agree. Callum Chick, phenomenal, but Tom Willis is on a different planet to everyone else at the moment, and he showed that against the Red Bulls. Your 9, Rory?
I mean, almost purely because he knocked Tom Christie over the dead ball line, but I thought he was good all day. I'm going to Charlie Bracken.
Okay, yeah, Charlie Bracken, very good. I went Van Portfleet again, deliberately to not pick Alex Mitchell, who I thought was very good again. But I thought Van Portfleet was instrumental and really looking like he's moving back to some of his best form for Leicester. And you kind of had to, I had to recognise that performance from Leicester in some way, shape or form. And your 10, Rory?
I'm gonna go. Okay, I had Bello as an option here, but I'm gonna go Charlie Atkinson, because he scored a try and set up another one, and I thought he outplayed Finn Russell on the day. I
had Charlie Atkinson as well. I thought he was fantastic. It's no surprise that Ross Byrne is now sitting on the bench and not even coming off the bench. No, because Atkinson is just putting in those good 80-minute performances. And I know I put those transfer rumour things out on the account as well. I know there's a very, very, very loose rumour out there around Charlie Atkinson to Saints. I imagine if that is in any way, shape or form in existence, I imagine these performances will be making Gloucester speed up and making sure that doesn't happen if they've got any sense about them. Because he needs to be your starting 10 for the remainder of the season.
100%. 100%.
So I'd imagine that rumour will be getting put to bed quite soon. Let's go centre pairings. 12.
I think 12 is Seb Atkinson.
I agree with you, Rory. I agree. Seb Atkinson.
Yeah, I mean, back to his best, helped by not having to shoulder the entire performance on his own back. Yeah. But when he was involved, he was superb.
Mm. Yeah, I'm in agreement.
At 13, not actually a lot of real standouts at 13. It was actually between Rob De Pree and Hutchinson for me. I'm probably just gonna go at Hutchinson.
I went Lazowski for Saracens.
Yeah, I mean, probably a fair shout.
It's really easy to look good when you're winning 73-14.
That's kind of the part of the problem for me. Is I find it difficult to pick from a team that kind of didn't have to do much.
Yeah. But I can see why you'd be thinking Dupree or Hutchinson as well. I think just generally across the board, the 13 shirt just wasn't the form shirt this week, and that's fine. That happens sometimes.
No. Edward Giroux was pretty good for Gloucester, but I couldn't pick another Gloucester back in a game we did actually lose.
Yeah, very close to picking a Northampton Saints pack with a Gloucester back line here, which wouldn't have been a bad side for the weekend.
I'd have liked him.
Wingers, Rory.
So Noah Calori on the right.
Yeah, you can't score 4 tries and not being in a team of the week.
No. You just can't really. Tempted by Shagan, who I thought was very good for Newcastle, but again, kind of on the same theme of can I pick 2 Sarries wingers? I thought I genuinely did think O'Flaherty was very good. I thought Alex Wills was very good. But I'm going to give it to Hamer Webb.
Good shout. He has looked good. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Who I think is really... I say Todero again would have been...
Close.
Freeman would have been if he hadn't dropped a dolly.
Yeah, I think if he'd scored that, I think that would have been...
That would have been enough for me. But I'm going to go Hamer Webb because I like what he's about. I like that he's just sort of going at it and he's now getting his opportunity and he looks good and he's now in the Wales squad. So Hamer Webb for me.
Yeah, that's fair. So I went... I know it's not his positional shirt, but I went Alex Wills just because how much of a threat he was in the air. And he really gave a headache to Northampton Saints, and I just thought let's credit that, especially considering he's coming back himself from injury to put in a performance.
Yeah, I thought he was very good. Yeah.
And fullback,
I went for Freddie Stewart.
Yeah, me too. Hard to ignore what was a very, very good performance.
Yeah.
So there we have it, folks. Those are our teams of the week. I'll try and mock that up and get that onto our socials, so you can let us know what you think.
And they will.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure it might be brought up a couple of times how Gloucester and Saints heavies these teams are. But hey,
statistically, I think we do dominate. Yeah.
Hey, if you don't like it, start your own podcast.
Exactly.
So
no, don't do that.
Don't do that. No, don't do that. There's enough competition as it is. Paul Brown Bampo's brought one out. Oh God, they're everywhere. But that's us this week. All I'll say, so next week, we're not going to be doing Premier Rugby Cup, as mentioned earlier. We are going to try and do a Six Nations kickoff special, talking about the teams that have been selected, maybe a bit about the under-20 Six Nations, looking ahead to the tournament, what we think the chances are, what our predictions are, and things along those lines. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy that one, and it'll be a nice little change of pace from our Prem and Champions Cup conversations in recent weeks. But for this week, Rory, and this particular episode, we are coming to a close. What are Rory's final thoughts? Finals thoughts? What is Rory's final thought?
England for a Grand Slam.
There you have it, folks. A little preamble to our Six Nations special next week. We've been Ruxmalls and Oval Balls. If you've enjoyed listening, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and tell your friends, because we love to just talk rugby, and the more people who listen, the more we can talk about it. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week. Ta-ra!
Ta-da!